Hello, hello. Welcome back for those of you who were here earlier in the day, and welcome back if you are new and finding this asynchronously. I'm Dr. Jared Jones. My PhD is in ancient systems of meditation, in particular Buddhism, and my master's work covered the cognitive science of meditation. And I'm on a mission to help lay people living in cities understand meditation and to train in meditation at a high level. I'm also trying to build a community of like minded people like you, Cleric, my biggest fan. You still got to help me come up with a good name for the fans. If we're going to be on the internet, we've got to do the internet thing. I am still, we are in the process now of building a community of like minded people who want to train in meditation in a serious way as lay people. And I'm building that currently through my school community below, SKOOL. If you'd like to join a like minded community of serious trainees in meditation, that's the place to go. My goal with this is that once we get between 100 and 200 signups for the school, we would have a critical mass of people where it becomes possible for us as a community to sponsor each other going into retreat for extended periods of time when and where appropriate. So the the lays. Uh, I don't like that one. We got to do better than the lays. Maybe, like I said, the city dwellers or the something clever. Maybe ChatGPT it. What else is worth saying at this stage of the game? Um, Somehow, miraculously, I mean, I literally stare at my phone, standing in my kitchen, half alive from working 10 to 18 hours a day for you guys for the last 3 weeks, and I'm just stunned and overwhelmed that I have 1,000 followers. Truly, truly stunned, and I'm overwhelmed, humbled, stunned by the response I've had to the videos that I've put up. Honestly and truly, I thought uh, that the things that I knew were things that most other people knew, and it turns out that's not true, and that these things are quite helpful for other people. So I really appreciate the support of the community for those who happen to pop on later. Okay, so the name of the game with this live, which you can see is Sit and See, is a little bit different than what we do on the. Yeah, the growth in views has been wild. I mean, again, I've literally sat on my couch, stood in my kitchen, and just stared into space for 10 minutes at a time, thinking, I don't think you guys understand, truly. Hey, Ty, good to see you. This is all I've ever wanted to do. From the time I went on my first retreat, the only thing that I've ever wanted to do is help other people train in meditation, train in Buddhist thought. And everything else I've ever done in my life is just to help me prepare to do that, including opening businesses, traveling, schooling. Everything has been preparing for this. And to actually see it happen is completely overwhelming for me and humbling. Because truly and honestly, for example, when I got my PhD, I thought, and actually I got a comment about this today, which is quite funny. I thought, my Buddhist community, they have this feeling that if someone has studied too much, that they must not have any experience. And I sort of made the sacrifice in a way that, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway, and I'm going to go ahead and get this degree anyway, even though there's a whole bunch of people who will think, this is just some academic now, and he doesn't know anything really. He just has a bunch of book smarts. And somehow, much to my surprise, this is actually something that people think is valuable as well in terms of my credentials. So I'm just shocked and overwhelmed and quite humbled really by the response that everyone has had, and thank you all so much. Okay, here I am blabbering on about things that don't really matter, I suppose, but truly, um, all I want to do with my life is help people understand this stuff, help people train in this stuff, and be successful in it. So you are all making that possible. One, by being here and actually doing the practices, but two, because the community has come together and financially begun to make that possible. Because it takes a certain amount of money to do this kind of thing full time. And I have, no exaggeration, been putting in between 12 and 18-hour days for 3 weeks straight, in addition to everything I've done in the past. Because I want this to work. I want this to work for you guys so badly. I think the world needs this so badly. And if I really do have the knowledge or skills or whatever it takes, right, to help people with this stuff, I feel deeply moved that I have to do something. So here I am. Okay. Let me, per the usual, put it in the chat that there's a couple ways to donate and support, and also what it is we're doing today. Give me just a moment to pop that in the chat. While I'm doing that, if there are comments, questions, concerns from those of you who have been training. Yeah, I mean, it is ironic that, Dogen, a lot of the greats were also scholars and not just practitioners. And honestly, I think that's because to really practice well, you need to know what you're doing. Or you need to have teachers who can help you not fall into the mistakes that would happen if they weren't there guiding you through the stuff that you didn't know about, Actually, since I'm sort of rambling and trying to get this sorted out at the same time, that's actually a really important point. For those of you who have ever heard of in Chan and Zen practice and so forth, when they talk about pointing out instructions, that's what that is. When you have an experienced meditation person, to put it in layman's terms, and that person, rather than telling you all the stuff, maybe you don't have time, maybe you don't have the whatever it is needed to understand it all. And so instead of explaining it all to you, they give you practices. And when you come to them and you say, hey, like one of my students did relatively recently, come to me and say, hey, I was doing standing practice and suddenly there was no me in the midst of tactile sensation. And then my vision, it seemed like everything disappeared, except everything was still there. And the seeing was the seen. And I go, yeah, that's it. That's the first taste of non-duality. And this shows you that the self you thought that was between you and the body and the self you thought was between you and vision isn't there. And this blew the socks off of my student, who, by the way, is Christian, not Buddhist. So it doesn't really matter what your background is. If you do the work and you do the practices, they will bear fruit. And the fruit that it bears, at least in my experience, will be the correct type of fruit, as long as you have someone there to help guide you through the nonsense. Because it was 3 years of him sort of coming to me and I was going, no, that's not quite it yet. Keep doing this and turn left slightly and focus on this aspect and so forth. And then some things started to open up. So this is the function of your teachers, and this is why you need teachers and mentors on the path. Okay. Including me. This is what my teachers did for me. Okay. So I really hate the interface for YouTube. It's pretty terrible. All right, let me see. Making a thank you for 1K subs. Yeah, I probably should. I'm an old guy. I'm not so good at the internet, but So there's about 10 of us here, for those of you who are new. In this stream, unlike the normal Q&A, we do practice in this stream. So we're going to do some practice today, and then we ask questions specifically about meditation. So if you have questions about your practice, and in particular, if you're doing the practices that I teach, please do ask those questions here. If you have questions about general Buddhist stuff or Buddhist history or Buddhist philosophy not related to the seated practices or standing or walking practices we're doing today, just save those for the next Q&A. And the next Q&A will probably be tomorrow. Um, honestly, my schedule now is I get up at about 7 or 7:30 and do some practice, and then I work on this stuff until about noon, and I have lunch. And then, my mind is pretty foggy by that point. So that's the point that I jump on live stream for like 3 hours, because it's nice, it's refreshing to hang out with you guys. And then I take a little break, have lunch, walk dinner, walk the dog, talk to my wife, and then I do some more work, and then I hop on this stream with you guys and girls. Okay. Okay. So a little bit of full disclosure before we get going. So the you have all been wonderfully generous. I'm again overwhelmed by the support of the community. You've been just so kind in beginning the process of basically creating enough financial flexibility that I can actually do this. Uh, And so today, just to let you all know, because the streams have been crashing over and over and over again, and the video quality is not great, and so on and so forth, I took much of the donations that have come in over the last week, and I put them towards a new laptop that's a high end, not a high end, but sort of a medium end streaming and gaming laptop that can handle doing high end video editing and high end streaming, and also has an Ethernet port, so the internet will be more stable as well. So probably within the next week or so, I'll be on the new beast, and therefore the stream will be stable, and the video quality will be higher. The audio will be louder. I know everyone's been complaining about the audio, but it's because my audio card on this laptop, which is old, really sucks. So if I turn it up, you just get crackling and popping, and it's unbearable to listen to. So because of all of your generous support, I've now been able to upgrade my setup, and it's going to make a huge difference for as much as I hate to say it, even me. If you're watching something and the video quality is not great and the audio is not great, it's hard to stay engaged. It's harder, and I'd rather just remove that barrier for everyone so that there's less friction. Yeah. So again, this is due to your kindness and your generosity. So thank you very much. And now I'm repaying it back to you by putting it to use for your benefit. Right? So thank you. And like I said, maybe, could be. So like I said on the Q&A, for those of you who have tuned in twice today, basically now that I'm at 1,000 followers, I think about it like this. If half of my followers chipped in $5 a month, just $5, which is a Starbucks coffee, I would never have to worry about the money side of this again, and I could just do all of this for you guys for the rest of my life. And to me, that's ideal. That's the perfect situation. I mean, if I could make response videos and deepening videos and courses and all this for your benefit for the remainder of my days, and then do retreats where we all get together and so on and so forth, that would be my dream come true. And now that everyone else seems to be saying they think that would be of some value, I just ask, if you stumble upon this or you happen to come through, just drop $5 in the till. If you feel that you'd like to donate more, fantastic. But if everyone just puts in $5, which is basically, it's like almost nothing, then it all works, much to my excitement and glee. Okay. I will now stop talking about money stuff. This is a practice stream. So let's get to some practice. Right. So I haven't seen any questions come in. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper on um, on the previous stream. We did opening the sense gates, and quite a few people that are students now in the school course, and quite a few people that have been doing this now with me for 3 weeks. You already have some experience with opening the sense gates. So I want to give you today sort of a, if I had 40 minutes, let's say, to do a practice session, and I had a bad day, a long day, my mind was messed up, what would that look like? Because this is the reality. We're going to have a lot of bad days, a lot of long days. Yeah. In the real world, that's how it is. So if you didn't have a bad day, think about what your mind is like when you did, right? So when you have had a bad day, your mind is scattered. It's constantly going back to all the stuff that happened throughout the day, and you can't get your mind to stay inside and stay on the object, right? So the technique that I have for this, which is, again, there are layers to why I teach the techniques that I do. One of the layers to foundation one is it's just a really good technique to help you pick up the ball, as I say sometimes. You know, you can just grab the meditation object for the first time and hold it for a bit. That technique is great for that. The other thing it's great for is once you have some experience and you're actually an okay practitioner, in the real world, if you're not in retreat, just continually deepening your practice from day to day, in the real world, you're going to have bad days, rough days. You know, you're going to lose jobs, you're going to lose romantic partners, you're going to lose friends and family at various times. You know, you're going to crash cars or whatever. Stuff happens. And so you need a technique to draw the mind back in so that you can start your session, because those 40 minutes that you have to put into your practice are very precious, aren't they? You know, it's really wild to think about, but consider this. The first 15 years of your life or so, you're just too young and immature and you don't get what's going on with anything. So that's a wash. The last 10 years, for most of us, you know, our body will be too sore, our mind will be too scattered. You know, your cognitive capabilities often decline as you get older. So the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, it'll be more difficult to do practice. If you start studying and practicing and doing stuff, you know, by the time you've been doing it a few years, maybe it starts working. So the best you could do is maybe from like 18 or 20 years old through to, you know, 60, 70 years old, maybe. I'm 40, right? So I've got 20 more years to do this, let's say, you know, or most of my teachers and stuff died at 60 for some reason, or around 60, 65. And so did my father died around that time. So for some reason, most of my mentors and stuff die around that time. So I might die around that time. So if I've only got 25 more years, 52 weeks a year, I've only got, what is the math on that? 520, 1,000. So, I mean, I only have like a handful of weeks that I could count in a pretty relatively small number. And amongst the times I'm going to sit down to practice, maybe I get 40 minutes a day, you know, maybe I get an hour a day, 2 hours sometimes, whatever the case may be. And we all differ on this. But when you actually boil it down, the time that you have to do really, really high quality practice ends up being this tiny amount of time, because most of the time you're sleeping, you're eating, you're taking a dump, you're having sex with someone, you're trying to get a job, you're living your life. So the amount of time you have to practice in a day is very short, and the amount of time you have to practice during your life is very short. And therefore, every session and the amount of time you get to put into each session is very precious. So 40 minutes. You need a technique when life hits you right in the face to be able to draw your mind back into the practice, get into a meditative state quickly, generate a high quality of mind, and do the practice you're trying to do. Intensive breath meditation, 5 minutes, extremely high intensity, can do that, which means that you can take your more difficult days and times and still get a relatively good quality of practice out of those times. So this is the other sort of layer 2 of why I teach this technique. And even my teacher, who was a greatly accomplished yogi, spent 6 months in retreat, was invited by the Ganden Tripa of the Gelug tradition, which is the head of the lineage, to come do highest yoga tantra teachings on one occasion. He did this practice, right? So if the great yogis are doing it when they're already highly accomplished, there's a good reason to do it. Yeah? Okay. So enough waxing poetic. So place your mind on one of the nostrils. So you breathe in at a normal pace, just a normal pace. Inside one of your nostrils, you'll feel that you can feel more sensation somewhere. You're going to hold the mind on that patch of skin and nothing else besides what I'm about to describe. Nothing else should occur. You don't use words to label it. You don't go, oh, this is breathing in, this is breathing out, etc., etc., etc. As I've described in some of the previous streams, um, well, I'm not going to go into all that detail. So you place your mind on the actual tactile sensations there. You don't visualize, you don't analyze, you don't do anything but keep the mind bang right there on those sensations. The only other thing you're going to do is you visualize the numbers when you're counting, and you say the numbers mentally with really, really loud, with great force, as if you're, like in martial arts, as if you're throwing a punch. 1, right? And the reason is you're trying to bring every ounce of your being into each part of the action. The counting helps you not lose your place. It will give you way more feedback on whether or not you're staying on the breath, even though it takes you off the breath. Okay? Same thing with the visualized numbers. If you suck at visualization, because some of us just do by nature, then just say the numbers in your head really loud with a great force. Okay? Okay. So we're going to begin. We count from 1 to 7, 7 to 0. And for you guys, that'll probably be about 3 times. Don't move your body at all unless you're at 0. At 0, give yourself a tiny little, tiny break, and you can adjust if you need to. Other than that, be like a mountain. All right? It's 5 minutes. You were scrolling through TikTok or something earlier today and sat still for 5 minutes without even noticing it. You can do this. All right? So, let's begin. So breathe in. Find that patch of skin, place the mind there with great intensity, and as soon as I say begin, take every ounce of your being as if your life depends upon it and place it on that patch of skin, and the action of counting. 1, 2, 3, begin. Okay. So from here, we're going to go straight into a body scan. So first, just for a moment, just sort of rest your mind, don't do anything. So let the mind reset a little bit from pulling it into the breath. Okay, now we'll go to we'll go into a body scan. Yeah. So just to comment on that briefly, Claire, I think again the reason for this is you've told me that you went back, you read the instructions again, maybe you watched the video again, and this is one of the prerequisites according to the great texts on meditation for succeeding in the practice. You have to remember the instructions. So the better and more natural the instructions are drilled into your mind, the better chance your session is going to go well. So this is why I said go back and read it again, watch it again. You know, if the instructions are really, really top of mind, then your sessions will go better, according to the great accomplished masters, not me. Okay. So now place the attention in the left. Let's go big. Place it in the left leg. Place it in the right leg. Become aware of the front and back of the hips. Squeeze the mind into the tailbone. Slide forward to the anus. Perineum. And then scan your sexual organ. And when you finish the scanning of the organ, come to rest at the tip of the organ. Become aware of the front and back of the waist belt. The front and back of the diaphragm belt, or the upper abdomen area. And the chest, front and back. If you can, don't include your shoulder blades. Those are part of your shoulder, not your back. Now become aware of the left arm, including the left shoulder blade. Become aware of the right arm, including the right shoulder blade. Take your awareness now to the lower third of your neck, which is when I say that, what I mean is the large triangle of connections that run from the upper part of the chest region and upper back region into the lower third of the neck. That whole big cone or triangle of connections into and underneath the collarbones, to the top of the shoulder blades, all of that tissue connecting the lower third of the neck to the rest of the body. The middle third of the neck. And the upper third of the neck. Now bring the mind into the joint between the neck and the skull. Move your awareness now to the back of the scalp, left side, right side, then to the left ear, the right ear, and your forehead. Left eyebrow, right eyebrow, left eye, right eye, left cheek. And by the way, when I do the cheeks, I include the temple area, even though I know that's not your cheek. And the right cheek. Your nose. Your upper lip. Your chin. Likewise, at least for me, when I say the chin, I also mean the jaw. So become aware of the area sort of underneath your chin and your jawbone, the jaw joint. So that whole set of stuff that connects to the chin. Now your top lip, your bottom lip, the skin on the inside of your mouth, your teeth, roof of your mouth, below the tongue, your tongue, now move your awareness following the tongue from the tip. Move your awareness backwards down the tongue into the throat and feel your throat. From your throat, move upwards through to the top of your head and finally arrive at the top of your scalp. Let your mind come to rest on the most sensitive point on the top of your scalp. Now stretch your awareness down from there until it touches your left fingertips and your left nail beds on your left hand. So maintain the awareness of the crown of the head and the left hand. And then stretch your awareness down again from the head to the right fingertips and nail beds. And hold 3 points. Stretch your awareness down to your left heel, toe tips, nail beds on your left foot. Hold 4 points. Left foot, both hands, crown of the head. Stretch the awareness down to the right foot, heel, toe tips, nail beds. Hold 5 points. Just let your mind zoom out slightly from the 5 points and take in the whole body. And as you take in the whole body, just gently, 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 gradually let go of the 5 points and come to rest in the nature of tactile awareness. So this is quite different than holding an object with your attention. So it will feel different because you're not doing something. Tactile awareness gives rise to tactile sensations and it experiences those sensations. So you're now transitioning to simply being tactile awareness. So it will be different in terms of its quality. But do your best to kind of zoom out and just abide in the nature of tactile awareness. If you notice that your awareness stops being like a mirror and that your mental consciousness, your awareness, your intention, your motivation starts to try to do something with what is being felt in tactile awareness, just don't do that. Just stop it from carrying on and resume just being aware of the entire body. Now, I believe we're about 20 minutes into the session. I just want you to sort of swim around in your awareness, as it were, with your mental factor of alertness or introspection, and just become aware of what your mind is like now after about 20 minutes in our hypothetical 40-minute session as a real person. And hopefully you've noticed that your mind is much more calm. For some of you, it might be sleepier because you're not used to maintaining lucid awareness while having a calm mind, but that will go away with time. And so in your hypothetical session, where you were then going to do recitation of mantra or recitation of sutra or recitation of, if you're Christian, maybe you have Orthodox practices, or Hindu, whatever your practices happen to be, doesn't bother me. From this condition, from this level of stability, lucidity, intensity of awareness, then you would start your main practice. Now this, in terms of the techniques that I teach, is just the beginning, really. So we're going to transition into, for those of you who this is already enough, just abide with tactile awareness as best you can. And maybe you can add on vision, but we're just going to carry on and do the first layer of Mahamudra practice, which I call Foundation 4, opening the 5 external sense gates. So from here, with your mind still, let's call it 70% or so, still abiding in tactile awareness, take 30% of the bandwidth of your attention, slowly open your eyes. Don't open them too quickly or your mind will rush to vision. So don't let your mind pull all the bandwidth to vision. Just slowly open the eyes and gaze forward. When I say gaze, I mean don't look at anything in particular. Just place the eyes facing forward, relaxed in the eye sockets. You may or may not know this about your eyeballs, but there are 8, as far as I understand, little tiny muscles. And for your eyes to look in any direction, including downward, which is what we do during most meditation sessions, those little muscles have to pull. So the natural position of the eye is facing straight forward. So allow the eye to relax all those little muscles around the eyeball and simply face where it's going to face. It's okay if you blink during this practice, but you may stop blinking, and that's also okay. So while you're gazing forward, as if your vision is a computer screen or a television screen, keep the entire screen in your awareness, right? So zoom out with your attention so that the whole screen is what you're looking at instead of just what's in the middle. And to enhance that, to fully open that screen, we're gonna use the directions. So first, without looking at any particular object, just come to be aware of the stuff that's furthest away in your visual field without looking at it. Just move your attention to that part of the screen without changing what's on the screen, if that makes sense. So we're going to call that direction forward. Now pull your attention backwards, and we're going to call this next direction behind for reasons that will become clear later on. Pull your attention backwards now without moving the eyes, and just swim around in the visual field using your attention, and look at the stuff that's closest to your vision, which will probably be, if you're like me, it'll be your nose, your eye sockets, maybe your eyebrows, the stuff that's closest to you. So become aware of all of that stuff that's close. Okay, let that go. Swim to the left. Become aware of the furthest point to the left. Let that go. Let your awareness swim to the right, furthest point to the right. Let that go. Furthest point above you. Again, don't move your eyes, just look, use your attention to scan your peripheral vision. Still gazing ahead, let that go and swim to the lowest point you can see, which will probably be your body. For me at the moment, I can see my arms, my hands, my legs. Now we're going to combine the directions, so look forward, or rather gaze forward, everything to the front and the back. And release that, everything to the left and the right. If your vision's getting a little weird, it will go back to normal when we finish, so don't worry about it. Seeing white light, gold light, geometric shapes, etc. is a normal thing, and it's nothing to worry about and not particularly important. Everything that appears in the visual field is the object of meditation, so it doesn't matter what appears there. Letting go of left and right, become aware of everything above and below. And releasing that. Now we're going to combine the directions. So everything to the front and the back. Maintain that. Everything to the left and the right, adding it on. If that's already too much, just stay with that. If you can go further, then add on everything above and below. And either hold 4 points, or excuse me, either hold 4 directions or 6 directions. While you're holding that, just refresh the directions. So don't let them go, but refresh them in this order. Front, back, left, right, up, down. Hold 6 points, 6 directions. While maintaining that, slowly pull your mind back from the 6 directions and just become aware of the entire visual field as if it were one computer screen or television screen that was turned on and you were kind of lazily looking over at it but not looking at anything in particular. It doesn't matter what's on the screen. It doesn't matter if there's golden light and blue Buddhas melting down through the sky, or if a firebomb goes off in the room. Doesn't matter whatsoever. You're simply being aware of the visual field in its entirety. As with the tactile field, your visual consciousness gives rise to visual experiences and then is aware of or knows those experiences. And the visual consciousness itself doesn't care what appears there. It doesn't care if it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. It's ready and willing to give rise to anything, much like the surface of a mirror is ready to give rise to any kind of reflection of any object that happens to appear in front of it. So, likewise, as we do with the tactile sensations, now just abide in the nature of visual awareness without doing anything, without holding any specific object, direction, or point. Okay, now while you're holding that, just take 50% of your awareness and just sort of slide it back over to tactile awareness, which has probably begun to fade. And we're going to refresh both vision and the body at the same time. So everything facing the front, visual, tactile. Hold that. Everything facing the back, visual, tactile. Hold that. Everything facing the left, visual, tactile. Hold that. Everything facing the right, visual, tactile. Hold that. Everything facing upward. Hold that. Visual and tactile. Everything below you, visual, tactile. Slowly ease off the 6 directions and abide in the nature of both visual and tactile consciousness at the same time. If that's too much, just stay with visual. For those of you who haven't done this before, just stay with that level of the exercise, either resting on visual or visual and tactile. For those of you who have done this already a few times, add on the auditory field. Front, back, left, right, up, down. And release the directions. Just open the auditory field. Add on the field of smell, the olfactory field, front, back, left, right, up, down. Release the directions. Just allow the olfactory field to be open. Open the taste field, front, back, left, right, up, down. Release the directions, just let taste remain open. Hold the 5 senses open. Now, whether you have come this far in your practice, or you stopped with tactile, or you stopped with visual and tactile, or wherever you stopped, just take a moment again to sort of swim around inside your awareness and just notice the quality of your mind. Notice how, hopefully, the tactile field is less reactive to what's occurring there. It's less drawn to one particular place in the body in terms of your attention. Likewise, also, because you've opened the visual gate, the vision is less reactive. So your mental awareness is less drawn to one particular place in the visual field, and it's content to simply just abide without selecting any particular object. Likewise, if you carry on with this training, you can do the same with your hearing, smell, and taste. And having done that, for those of you who are interested, you can then, because the external fields are less reactive, since the external fields are not pulling the mind in any particular direction, it becomes very easy then, or much easier at least, to turn the mind towards the mind. Normally, your mind is pointed outwards towards the five senses, but if you tame the five senses, then you can meditate on consciousness. So, for those of you who are doing just sitting practice, let's say for an hour a day, this technique gives you the ability to enter a state of just sitting that's quite profound. And here we are at about the 40-minute mark. So if you had 10 more minutes or whatever, 40 more minutes, or 10 or 20 more minutes, then you could do a really, really high quality level just sitting practice, because we've now made the mind less there's less doing in the mind, right? So you can enter a state of non-doing and abide in the nature of consciousness, which is the next step in Mahamudra, by the way, which is the way that I teach this. So just take a moment if you need to now do some circles or unstretch your legs or what have you. Coming out of this kind of meditation, take your time, because moving out of it slowly will help you preserve the benefits of the practice. It'll last longer. And as you come out, just sort of, as much as you can, keep 10%, 20%, 30% of your mind in the training we just did. Keep that bandwidth engaged. And let the other 70% of yourself just go back to normal, if that makes sense. Okay. Questions? I see we have quite a few people moseying through the stream. If it's your first time, welcome. Unlike the Q&A, we do practice in this stream. And I'm happy to answer questions about any type of meditation practice you're actually doing. But I try to stay away from big theoretical discussions on this stream. This is more about your training, your actual training, your experiences in training, and so forth. Plenty of time during the Q&A to get all the other questions out of the way, huh? Okay, so I see who's here. Urgen Lama. Ah, Urgen Lama. Are you, I'm assuming, in the Tibetan tradition? And some of the regulars, Cleric is here. Tai Z, welcome, welcome. General, you still haven't told me, General Dao, if you like Dao or Tao, or some other pronunciation. Anyways, I don't think you heard, General, but because of your generosity yesterday and the generosity of the community, I was able today to purchase a sort of mid-range but quite good streaming/gaming laptop that has enough hardware capability to do multiple streams into 4 or 5 different platforms simultaneously when and if the occasion calls, and to do high-end video editing. And it also has an Ethernet port, so I can have much more stable internet connection. And because the processing power is much higher, the quality of the video that you'll see, you know how it's all grainy and crappy, will be much higher. Furthermore, it has a better, if I'm not mistaken, a much better audio card. So part of the reason my volume is so low is it gets poppy and crackly when I turn it up because my laptop's so old and crappy. So thank you so much. I took everything but the cost of a hamburger for my wife and I out of the money that was donated over the last few days and put it into upgrading the setup so that I can do better stuff for all of you. Yeah. So more good stuff coming, hopefully in the next week or two. I'll be putting the next video up. So let's see. Again, if you're here, I think 8 or 10 people have come through that did some practice and so forth. So please do share your experiences and share your questions. I know that in Buddhism and And even I think in Hinduism, you just don't talk a lot about your experiences in meditation. And I had the great pleasure of training for the last 5 years with a great Taoist practitioner whose lineage uh, includes Buddhism and Confucian practice. And in their tradition, they just openly talk about it all. And that struck me as very strange in the beginning, but what ended up happening is it sort of makes it less precious, less holy and mystical sounding when you just talk about it as normal stuff that happens when you train your mind. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of the stuff that happens when you train in concentration, according to these traditions, actually isn't extraordinary. It's just the normal stuff that happens when you train in concentration. But it is so wacko from the point of view of a normal person that most of the time we don't talk about it. But since we're amongst practitioners, just tell me what's actually happening. you know, like we're amongst friends here. All right. The inside of my right knee has been extremely upset with me lately when I meditate. Inside of your right knee. Inside of your right knee. Sorry, let me pan down. I apologize for my outfit here. When you say the inside of your right knee, you mean here, this joint here? Yeah, and I think there's some reason, Ty. I think there's some reason for that that makes sense. I'll come right back to you, Cleric. If you guys don't mind indulging me, there's a pretty funny story that the Taoists tell. The Taoists have all sorts of funny stories to make fun of the Buddhists, which I find quite charming because my teacher makes fun of me all the time. uh, so this is like it's like the old joke about a rabbi, an imam, and a minister sitting in a bar. It's like that kind of joke, except it's for a Buddhist priest, a Taoist priest, and a Confucian scholar. And so the Taoist, the Confucian, and the Buddhist are staring at a mountain, and someone says, "Let's get to the top of this thing." And so the Taoist, I'm sorry, so the Confucian gets to work right away with a research study, looking at everything they can see from the bottom of the mountain. And they catalog it all and they look at it and they hypothesize about this and that and what's the exact way to take up this part from what we can see and what are all the aspects and facets of what we can see from here. And they do all this before they set out on the journey. And so they get started 4 or 5 years later after after the Buddhists and Taoists. The Buddhists and Taoists set out together right away to climb the mountain. The Taoist sort of meanders up the mountain, you know, when they find like a cool spot with a nice little cave somewhere, they might sit there for a while and look out. And they sort of like, they're definitely going up, but they're just sort of taking their time and wandering their way up. And, we'll get there when we get there. No need to go too harshly and too quick and be too mean with ourselves. We'll make our way up. And the Buddhist, he looks at the mountain and he looks at where he's standing and he goes like this. And he walks in a straight line from where he's standing as fast as he can over ice and over crevasse and climbing rock walls, straight as fast as he can to the top. Health and sanity and everything else be damned. Good times. Okay. Okay, so why does your knee hurt? Okay, think about your elbow, right? Your elbow is kind of like your knee. It's like a hinge. It's designed to go like this. It doesn't. If I turn my arm like this, that's my shoulder. Look, watch. My elbow stays where it is, right? But my shoulder is rotating. See that? So the shoulder rotates the the arm to move, but this joint, it just moves like this. So if I take my hand and I push this way, I start to feel pain over here. And if I push hard this way, I start to feel pain on the other side, or the same side. I feel pain, right? So when you're sitting like this and your weight is on your legs and it's twerking the knee joint like this, which is a joint that's meant to go like this, not a joint that's meant to go like this, up and down, then you're going to feel pain where you're putting pressure on the joint, because you're trying to force it to move in a direction it doesn't move. So how do you fix that? Unfortunately, I think Western people in general, their hips and legs tend to be a little bit wider and broader than people in Asia and India, just as a general principle. Again, hopefully that doesn't sound too funny. And because our legs tend to be much wider and thicker, it's difficult for us to get our legs, at least some of us, into a position where we don't end up putting that extra pressure, in this direction, where we're pushing up like this on the foot, and therefore putting pressure on the inside of that joint. It's difficult for us. So how do you fix this? If you take your foot, let me see, hold on, I have to think about it now. Right. If you take your foot and you turn it this way, then you end up taking the pressure that's on the leg and putting it here instead of here. So if the pressure's here, it's just the normal movement of the joint. If the pressure's here, I'm trying to make the joint move in a way that it doesn't move. And therefore you'll feel pain here. Again, the trouble is, though, if your legs are a bit larger than an Indian yogi who eats one meal a day, then then you may end up having your legs fall asleep just because of the shape of your legs and your hips and so on anyway. And that can actually be made worse by turning the feet in this way so that the pressure is here and you're not hurting the knee joint. So honestly and truly, after 20 years, I haven't found a fantastic way to fix that. The only thing I've found that actually makes it bearable, if you were going to sit for 3 or 4 hours, say, the only thing that makes it bearable is just sitting somewhere extremely comfortable, which is usually not somewhere in a temple. So for example, if I'm going to sit for a really long period, then I sit on my couch, on the advice of my teachers, actually, because sitting on my couch, my knees and stuff end up being able to, there's more give here. And so when my knee is in the couch like this, I'm putting less pressure on that joint, and there's less pain. And also something about being on the couch with like lots of extra cushioning and stuff underneath. For some reason, it ends up relieving the nerve pressure that you get inside the hip that ends up making your legs fall asleep too. And so usually around 2 hours, also this comes over from the Taoist traditions, very helpful advice. Around hour 2, if you're sitting for a long time and your legs are falling asleep and the pain is too much, then you uncurl your legs very, very slowly. And there are diagrams of this in the Tibetan tradition too. You uncurl your legs slowly and you can just have it here, stretched in front of you, like some of the bodhisattvas statues and stuff you see where they're sitting and it sort of looks like they're lounging, Again, I don't want to just show you my legs and stuff on live stream. It'll look funny. But sorry, I think my computer is getting really, really hot. Hopefully this will be fixed with the new one. So you end up with your hands still wherever they were. You very slowly, very deliberately, without wiggling around and all this, because you don't want to, especially if you've been sitting for a long time, if you move the body too much, it'll pull the mind up out of the concentration that you're in, and you'll have to do some work to get back down. So if you're trying to sit for a long time and reduce the pain, sit somewhere really comfortable, and then when you're and in the beginning, 40 minutes or an hour might be a long time for you. So just sit somewhere more comfortable. And then if you need to, midway through, very slowly move, keep, again, sort of like we did with vision and tactile and blah, 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 keep 80% of your bandwidth or 90% in the concentration, and just take 10% and move the leg from this position, just move it out like this so that it's sort of like a, you know, it's just sort of sitting outstretched. And the blood will go back in. And while the blood is going back in, bring your mind 100% back in to the meditation. And then when the leg is comfortable again and the tingling goes away, then bring the leg back into the normal posture. So this is what I would recommend. So Tai says, this reminds me of a Ming Shenmo novel called Chinese Characters that what's that funny word that they have in China for white people? Okay, wait, there's a funny word that they use. Guilo, something, you know. This Guilo can't read that. The author literally depicted a story in which two Buddhas and two Taoist supreme gods joined forces to beat Lord Lingbao. Yeah, man, the Taoists they really take the piss out of Buddhists. It's hilarious. They really they make fun of the Buddhists for how serious they are about all of it, because they're like, look, we're over here accomplishing these states of mind, and we're not so grim about it. Okay. Speaking of statues, I was tempted to get a green Tara the other day. Very cool story. Yeah, green Tara is fantastic. Street Angel from Japan. Hello. Hello from Japan. I have a love affair with Japan. I really hope to visit someday. As I practiced this last month in a kind of self-retreat of meditation and study, I have really started to have that mirror-like reflection. Good. And now I can carry on with that throughout the day. Exactly. So this is the heart of the approach that I teach. Being able to generate this kind of awareness becomes the general way in which you interact with the world. And the more you can take it into your normal activities, which, by the way, I think is the beating heart of Zen. I think this is what makes Zen practice so special, and what makes Mahamudra practice at the sutra level of practice so special is these techniques that allow you to transform everyday activities into profound concentration. Because then you can, in some sense, while looking like a totally ordinary person, you can be training your mind at a very high level all day long, or at least as much as you can, right? And that means that you're living in some kind of retreat, actually. And through living that way, you're going to make progress. And your life will be better for it. The key, though, is, as they say in China sometimes, you have to hide the jade. You should appear to be a normal person. You shouldn't appear to be some weirdo who floats around and doesn't talk to anybody and stares off into space, and that people, try to ask you questions and you go, huh? Like, this should make your mind sharp, capable, right? So if you're doing a lot of practice, you want to make sure that you're not spending too much time, because it's really easy in this type of meditation, if you're not, how to say, brightening the mind in the right way, it's very easy for your mind to become dull, and then you're training in dullness and not concentration. And that's dangerous. It'll make you dumber. It'll make you less discerning. And you'll notice it's making you dumber, because people will ask you stuff and it'll take you forever to remember it, and you'll have trouble like connecting ideas when people tell you stuff. It'll just be harder to do things. And that's not a sign you're making progress. That's a sign you're resting your mind in a state of dullness rather than in a state of concentration. So this is very important. Don't pray for others to see, for they are hypocrites and will receive their full reward. Wait, what did I miss? It seems It seems like the second half of a thought. Hello, Bell. Right. So that's a good question disguised as a statement. Let's come in, come here, lock in. Come talk to me for a second. Listen to me. My friends, my colleagues, my compatriots on the path. If you really want to understand what's going on with more profound states of meditation, you need to understand the difference between a type of meditation that relies on an object and a type of meditation that is the subject. So when we focus on the breath, even though the tactile sensation of breathing is something that appears, for example, in your tactile field, and even though that sensation is non dual already with the mind that is generating it, even though you don't notice that, even though all that is true, my friends, until you can zoom out and simply exist as tactile awareness in its natural condition, and its natural condition is to not chase sensations around all over the body, zoom in, zoom out, boom, 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 which is how our mind is normally dealing with tactile sensation. When your mind isn't doing that and simply abides as tactile awareness, not modifying it or running away from its natural state, then you're simply abiding in the natural condition of tactile awareness. That is giving you profound insight into what you are as a being, because this is one of 5 things that makes you up as a being. The other ones are visual, hearing, smell, taste, and then finally consciousness itself, your mind. And of course, then all of the things that appear to those 6 parts of your being that make you up. So anytime you're resting on an object, that can be very profound, very important practice. Recitation of mantra, visualization of deities, visualization of mandalas, the cultivation of internal sub-physical substances, the winds, chi, prana, kundalini, blah, blah, blah. These can be extremely profound practices, but from what I've seen in every single system that I have studied at any depth, the most profound end place of all of these practices is abiding in the nature of your consciousnesses of some type, whether that's mental consciousness or it's the extremely subtle types of consciousness you get from doing Taoist Neigong or Tibetan Tantra, or in my understanding of them, the Chinese and Japanese Tantras. Or the Kundalini practices and tantric practices of the Hindus, etc. So the final result, the final sort of stage before what we would do in Buddhism, there's one more step after this, but the most profound insights you're going to get before you do analysis of those things is to become actually aware from an experiential standpoint of the components that make you up as an entity. Because it's not what you think. Even in terms of something as seemingly superficial and stupid as being aware of your body, when you get a sense of what your body actually is because of being aware of tactile sensations, it will blow you out of your mind in a way that you will seem incomprehensible to you until it happens. Because tactile sensation is not what you thought. And visual awareness is not what you thought. And hearing isn't what you think right now. Neither is smell and neither is taste. And when you experience what they're really like, you'll probably need to cry about it for 20 or 30 minutes because it's shockingly different and beautiful and completely surprising. So when we're talking about meditation on the subject, it's very different because you don't select one particular object. You simply open that type of awareness and then you abide as the nature of that awareness without any particular object. Or you could say that the object is everything that appears to that type of awareness. And that gives you much, much more insight into what you are as a being and where your mind is and what your mind is doing than simply holding it on an object. Furthermore, actually, that's a really profound point. So please do say some stuff. If you have questions about that part, please do chip in. Dr. Reality is trippy. The thing is, it's really not trippy. This is what's so astonishing is at first you go, wow, this is so different. This is not what I thought. And it's so much better than I thought. And then after a while you go, this is just how stuff is. The mind, the sense consciousnesses are bliss. They just are. To be aware contains intensely blissful awareness that fills up your entire body. And that blissful awareness is absent the ordinary type of self that you thought was there and is there as I'm talking to you right now. And that's blatantly obvious to you when it happens. So abiding in your sense consciousnesses, even just your sense consciousnesses before you get to the mind, will change the rest of your life. And if you can touch down on one of your sense consciousnesses, even for a few seconds, you will never, ever, ever be the same. And you will always, in the back of your mind, have a little itch that wonders, what else is going on with meditation? Because this is really profound. I need to know more about what this is. Even if you never follow it up, that itch will be there for the rest of your life. So, okay. Having said all of that, it's also the ordinary condition. This is the part that people don't get in this century. Somebody asked on the live stream right before it crashed, they said, what do people misunderstand about all this? When you call a Dharma center or a yoga center or something where they're doing a lot of meditation and the people there can barely talk to you, and it takes them 3 weeks to get back to you when you ask a question, and you have to follow up 15 times by email and all of this stuff, that's a sign to me that there's not good practice going on there, because your mind can't be like that if there's good practice going on, because that's not what consciousness is like. That's what delusion is like. And in particular, that's what mental dullness is like. So if you're sitting around I need a word for this, like ASMR meditation, don't mentally dull, just sit there and don't do anything and let your mind float free like clouds through the sky. Your life is going to be much worse than it would have been if you never encountered any of this. Because that state of mind is worse, I think, than the ordinary state of mind. It's less discerning. You're less aware of what's going on, and you're less capable. So the thing but again, to come back, raves are pretty trippy. So to come back to this discussion, when you contact the senses, for example, at first it blows you out of it completely blows you out of reality as you knew it, because things are not what you thought. And then after a while, you settle into it, and that's just how it is. And then you realize, oh, actually, this is just the ordinary condition. There's nothing special about this, and it doesn't make me special that I've contacted this. That would be like, I don't know, like giving everyone a trophy just for turning up at the soccer match. Sorry, young folks. No, this is just how your mind is. This is what your mind is. This is the ordinary condition. So this is why in Zen they say that the ultimate thing is to become a person of no status. You have no status because what you've accomplished doesn't make you extraordinary. You've just realized how stuff is normally. Do you get it? This is a really important point. Um, Although I don't know that I'm explaining it very well. Maybe that'll sort of sink into the back of your mind somewhere, and then later, uh, when these things happen, it'll sort of click. But this is why, if you're actually having these experiences, you shouldn't be walking around like a zombie, unable to answer people's questions, and I don't know, staring off into the distance and not able to function in the real world. These states of mind are hyper functional. They're better than your ordinary state of mind. Oh, Bell, you crack me up. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You don't sublime cessation. Yeah, sometimes I say that it's the hyper ordinary. One of the things that's really striking when you meet highly accomplished practitioners is that they seem more normal than normal. One of the things that's striking about the disposition of great practitioners is that they are completely understated quite often. They're completely understated as beings. They just seem like a normal person, except it's extremely rare for them to get angry, and they mostly don't screw stuff up, and they care about what's going on around them, and they're just sort of stable, and nothing jumps out at you as like, oh wow, this person's so special. Most of the time, there are some exceptions, but quite often that's how it is. In the case of really, 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 really highly accomplished practitioners, they're like that, except that in like a 30-foot radius around them, you get near them and there's like a pea soup of some substance that you've walked into that changes your entire mind and makes your body feel weird and in a good way. Like you can't be your normal self because they exist and they're in front of you. It changes you just being in their presence, whether you want it to or not, in a good way. And so even though you look at them and you go, wow, there's nothing like, they're not glowing, and, they're not, there's no halo, and they're sitting over there just eating lunch or whatever. But their mind influences the entire environment around them. It's stunning. So this stuff shouldn't make you weird. It really shouldn't. It should make you more normal, actually, more human. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's another aspect. I don't know that I want to talk about that today because this is a stream that's mainly about meditation. But if you bring it up during the next Q&A, we can talk about it. But it is a bit of a strange thing, but not super strange. Anytime you mix power and prestige and name and influence with something that's quite intimate, some people will abuse that. You know, and some people that would have otherwise probably never done that, because they're in a position where it becomes easier for them to do it, they end up doing it, which is horrifically bad. And this is actually why, like, my teacher used to say, you don't want to become famous. Anyways, okay. The dull state of wrong practice. Yeah, thinking dullness is non duality. And it's very common. Uh, I think also quite a few people think that just sitting there and getting like a little tiny taste of the fact that your mind is non-dual with objects, that makes you a really special person. And if that happens to you and you think like that, then you'll do really dumb stuff, like get on the internet and argue with people for 18 hours a day about Advaita Vedanta. or emptiness or whatever. And if you do that, it will interrupt the process of your training and it will slow down your training and you'll make less progress. You know? So don't do that. I mean, this is why it's better to just talk about it. If I tell you that all this stuff will happen within a couple of years and, you know, of real training, and I tell you that, yeah, it's going to happen and it's going to be great and blah, 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 but it's like a normal thing, you know, happens to all of us. It's fantastic. It's like the first taste of things really, really going right. So great. It's real. Carry on, you know? And I'm not downplaying it, but also not playing it up. You see? So I think because the hour has moved a bit, and we're now in the twilight hour, a lot of other time zones have come online, so there's quite a few people in the stream. For those of you who are here, we're now in the after hours. We're in the after party of the meditation session. Ooh. So what we did today, if those of you are here who have missed it, you can go back and watch the first part of the stream, was just sort of go through what you might do if you were trying to enter a deep state of concentration before doing your normal practices that you might otherwise do. So there are some techniques to get into concentration really quickly so that your other practices become deeper and more profound. So that's what we did today. Yeah. Yeah. So those of you who are here, since we're in the after hours, if you have questions about your practice, meditation, or you just want to share stuff that's happened and get my 2 cents on it or whatever, happy to do that. Happy to do that. That's why we're here tonight, to talk about meditation and to do some practice. Yeah. To say a bit more, Street Angel from Japan. If you train in standing meditation, where you generate the states of mind that you've already generated with some success, perhaps, in a seated position, if you train in those standing, then you'll be able to take more. You'll be able to take more of the practice into real life. Let me see. What do you feel about New Age spiritual practices focusing more on somatics than sitting meditations like moving energy exercises? That's good. It's good, cleric. Let me address that quickly and then I'll come back to the energy stuff. So, yes, one of the kind of funny things that happens is when you start to get a taste of whatever technique you're doing, usually the first thing that happens is you go, oh, wow, I'm doing it. This is it. And the fact that you have that thought rips you out of the meditation and it's hard to get back to the object. So that's actually a good sign, and that will go away and that will stop happening. But the less you sort of, I don't know how to say it, but the less you sort of focus on the fact that you're being successful in it, and the more you focus on the instructions, uh, the better it'll work. Yes, sorry. Yes, Street Angel from Japan. So also then, once you can generate the same quality of mind that you generate sitting in a standing position, and if you go to the, if you're interested, man, click on the school course link that's in the, not in the chat, but it's in the description. If you sign up there, I have all the materials there for how I train people in standing and walking meditation. So once you can do the standing meditation, then you want to generate the same level, the same quality of mind in moving in a walking back and forth. But do it progressively so that you have the same level of intensity to the concentration while standing. Then move on, get the same intensity while walking. And then if you can do it while walking, eventually For after walking slow for a while, you'll be able to do it walking at a normal pace. Once you can walk at a normal pace, then you can do it while walking around and looking side to side and not looking like a weirdo zombie who's staring off, not looking like a drug addict, right? Because if you walk around the street like this, unblinking, what is that? What is that movie? Twilight. So when I was younger, I can't remember why I was watching this movie, but there's a really funny scene where they make the young gal, whatever her name is, they make her into a vampire, and they're telling her how to be a vampire. And I had been training in Mahamudra for like 8 years with my teacher, and I ended up watching this film, and the older vampires are talking to her about some stuff you need to do now that you're an immortal, and that otherwise mortals will think you're really weird. And they were like, okay, so listen, now that you're immortal, you're not going to need to blink anymore. And other people, if they see that, they'll think it's really strange. So just remember, occasionally, like every couple of breaths, to blink. If you forget to do that, people will think it's strange. And I burst out laughing because, if you train in opening the visual sense gate and you can generate concentration for good portions of the day, you just stop blinking and you look really intense and really weird. And I started laughing because I went, "Oh yeah, I should probably blink, or people are gonna think I'm on drugs or something." uh, okay. So what do I think about energy practices? So here's my opinion on energy practices. First of all, with due respect, I don't like the term energy, because energy is a physical property of the ordinary universe, made up of protons, electrons, neutrons, weak force, strong force, blah 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 blah. It is a physical property of material stuff. We know what energy is, roughly speaking, in terms of the category of stuff that can be energy, or etc. All of the research and testing and so forth that's been done on chi, prana, kundalini, etc., have not found a physical substance that correlates to whatever it is that's being cultivated, stored, moved around, and projected out of the body and so forth doing those practices. So whatever that substance is not a physical thing. They've done testing on this with really, really highly accomplished so-called energy practitioners, energy art practitioners from China, for example, and there's nothing physical coming out when they do stuff like light paper on fire by ejecting tons of chi through their palm into a piece of paper. So there's just nothing physical there that's doing that. So whatever this substance is not energy, because energy is a physical thing that falls into a bunch of categories we know from physics. And this is something that doesn't fall into the categories we know of, at least for now, from physics. So I don't like the word energy. It's not a good word. It's not accurate. And I think it takes people's minds to the wrong place. I see a lot of weird stuff on the internet where people are like, they're trying to explain all this stuff using fascia, or using the new thing they found in science, or quantum mechanics somehow, or I don't know, like you name it, they're trying to, or electromagnetic fields, bioenergy, blah 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 blah. And none of those, we can measure all of those physical things, and it isn't any of those physical things, because they've looked, at least as far as my research is concerned. I could be wrong. Maybe they found something in the last 5 years, but between 1960 and 2020, based on the research I looked at, they've never been able to find a physical substances associated with any of this stuff. Having said all that, if you do something like tumo practice from the Tibetan Tantras, which is now kind of declassified, so to speak, there's been a lot of research on it. There's been quite a few teachers who have sort of removed the, I think, formal empowerment requirements, etc., for doing these practices. Or if you do Taoist Neigong, which is basically the same practice but approached from a different angle, you learn how to grab onto these substances. You learn how to make them more refined. You learn how to sort of, how to say, sort of congeal them, thicken them, so that they're more substantial in terms of what you can somatically or experientially grab onto. And then you move them around the body to create various effects. And don't put me on blast, but one of you knows that I have good reason to think those substances are quite a real thing. And that's not a story I tell everyone. For the person who knows, you don't need to share that with anyone. So there are very good reasons in my personal experience to think those substances are quite real. And furthermore, there's been research done on people that do tumo practice, for example, that shows that whatever it is they're doing with whatever this substance is has really real effects in the material world. The internal core body temperature of a tumo practitioner can get so high that steam will come off of a blanket as they're sitting in sub-zero temperatures underneath a wet blanket on their naked skin, exposed to the elements. This is how high they can raise their body temperature through congealing these winds, they call them. They would be called prana in the Indian systems. You pool them, you congeal them, you make them more refined, you pack more and more and more of them into a small space, and when they get sort of thick, they shoot up the spine. But as they thicken, they create heat, and so your core body temperature rises. And as it rises, it gets so hot that you can melt frozen blankets off your body in sub-zero temperatures, and that's been proven. We have good scientific research on this. It's all over the place. So these substances are real, but I think most of the sort of soft core, let's say, energy practices that you find in the New Age traditions, they're very anemic, respectfully, in terms of the depth, complexity, refinement of 2,000 years of the cultural geniuses of India, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Tibet, pooling literally the Mozarts and Picassos and you name it, the geniuses of their culture for 2,000 years, doing these practices, refining how to think about them, how to do them, how to practice them, and produce results with them. Because they didn't have cell phones, What else are you going to do? Joking aside, what we find in terms of so-called energy practices from the New Age these days, I find to be if we were putting them in relative terms, maybe they're doing some of that stuff, some of that work, but the human intelligence and work and genius that's put into what you can do with those things, they're starting over virtually from scratch, and the bar has already been set way up here outside the screen, completely beyond the understanding and realm of what these people are doing. And yeah, I mean, I've trained with some people in Chinese internal martial arts, for example, that can do some really, really interesting things that, again, seem to defy the ordinary laws of physics as I understand them. So I've never met an energy arts person that could do that. And I have people in my circles that do a lot of that stuff. And it doesn't mean that they're doing nothing, but if you were asking me, should I go that way or should I train in like a real Taoist lineage with somebody who has authorization from a proper lineage, 1,500 years old, with the geniuses of 1,500 years of practice, refining a system to make all this work? Should I do that? Or should I get it from Susan Lemke from Ohio, who had a vision? I would say go with the Taoists. Go train with some people that have been putting thousands of years of thought and effort and community work into what these things are and how they work. That will be so much more profound and interesting than going the other way. So yeah, I do, Brandon. I do train in Tai Chi and some of the Taoist health arts, and I've been training with a Taoist lineage holder here in Scotland for about 5 years. Just adding those things on to my Buddhist repertoire, as it were. In terms of trauma and things getting stuck in the body, to circle back, if you just do body scanning, that'll clear up a lot of the trauma and so forth that gets stuck at the level of the body. This is, again, this is one of the reasons I put it at the beginning of the training set that I have, because if you do a lot of body scanning, it actually clears up a lot of BS from your psychology without having to go to therapy. And that's much quicker and much easier than having to talk about your childhood or whatever, you know. You may still need to do therapy, but it's much faster and much easier, and will make the therapy go faster if you do a lot of body scanning. So by helping you fix those things, by clearing the energetic component, for lack of a better term, the subtle body component, by clearing this stuff out, um, the other work will be easier. I know that sounds a little weird, but again, I've had some experiences that make me think. As an academic, okay, as someone who has been trained to be extremely skeptical about things, I've been convinced that this stuff is real. Um, Instead of just one that each of them cultivated. So what I mean by this is, there are already systems for training things like chi, prana, the winds, etc., that are extremely sophisticated, because for a couple thousand years, very smart, very driven, very capable people have refined systems that were already pretty good to start with and made them better. And you could inherit one of those systems that's already extremely well developed. Um, those are still viable. They're still alive. If you find a good lineage, you can do those practices, and they do stuff. You know, they do things that are very interesting. You also got to be careful though, because, for example, there's a teacher who's quite well known named Damo Mitchell. He's a Western practitioner who holds a Taoist lineage. He teaches a lot online. He has an online course, and from what I've heard through my people in the Taoist community, he's quite good. He's good. I've talked to him on one occasion, and he told me, having traveled all over Asia to train in Taoist stuff, he said the amount of charlatanry, the amount of fakes in Asia is much higher and much worse than you find in the West. So simply because someone's from Asia and has a title and a funny way of dressing or whatever, doesn't mean they actually know what they're talking about. So you got to find a good, reputable lineage, and you need to find somebody that understands how to teach Westerners, if you're a Westerner, for example, because the way that we learn and think is different. Uh, but there are proper Taoist lineage holders and energy arts, for lack of a better term, lineage holders that are living in the West and living. I don't know about Africa, but they're living in South America, certainly Canada. They're all over the place. I know some of these people. Matter of fact, I know someone in South America, and I know someone in Canada that are extremely capable in these things. Okay. From my personal experience, many Taoists or Buddhists in China have no problem with to go to each other's temples and pray. Yeah, yeah. Once again, I'm not an expert in Chinese, Buddhist, and Taoist history, but hang in there for a moment, because I find this quite interesting. I'll do my best to recount this. My Taoist mentor here in Scotland is a literal genius. He's a Mensa member, in addition to being an extremely capable yogi, and in addition to being an extremely capable person in the real world. Earlier, when I was saying I know a great practitioner who used to work for the UN and regularly hangs out at the House of Lords in the UK, etc., that's him. I mean, he runs an extremely successful company, blah, 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 blah. He's by all normal measures, he's a successful person. On top of all of this, he's an extremely well-educated person in terms of the history of his own traditions. And one of the things that he likes to point out and sort of poke at me with, as the Buddhist guy running straight up the mountain, he said, in China, at various times in history, Taoism actually started as a lay tradition. It was all lay people. And then the Buddhists arrived, and the Taoists went, you know what? This monastic thing is actually kind of cool. There are good reasons to do this. It's kind of helpful. So they started doing some monasticism. And then through the ages, through hundreds of years, different emperors at various times said, you know what? I don't like these Buddhists. I'm going to kill them all. And the Buddhists took off, let their hair grow out a little bit, and took off one funny hat and put on another funny hat and said, don't worry about us. We're Taoists. This is a Taoist temple. And then another emperor would come along and say, okay, we're going to kill all, you know what? Those Taoists are horrible. They killed all the Buddhists a little while ago. Let's kill all the Taoists. And so all the Taoists cut their hair off and put little dots on their head, and they, oh no, this is a Buddhist temple over here. And so at various times in history, the Buddhists and the Taoists have sort of intermingled in China, and so their practices have gotten closer to each other. And from what I can tell from my own experience and from my studies and everything else, it seems like with the Taoists in particular the Dragon Gate lineage, which is the largest lineage on the planet, and in particular within that, the Complete Reality School, they have for centuries been combining and recombining Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucian practices. And the way that they do this is actually quite brilliant. So when they train in their Buddhist, the Buddhist part of their Buddhist practices, they go train with Buddhists. It's not like they hang out with the Taoists who say we know stuff about Buddhism. No. They go train with a Chan priest to do the Buddhist part of their Taoist practice. And in my particular lineage, through him, through my mentor here, his teachers went to Tibet. I'm sorry, no. A couple steps back, really important lineage holder who passed it to a couple of people who passed it to us, went to Tibet pre-1959, pre-Tibetan occupation, Chinese occupation of Tibet, and trained with Tibetan tantrikas, got tantric empowerments in Tibet before it got invaded by the Chinese, and brought that back as part of his Taoist practice. So this lineage of Taoist practice includes proper lineage training in Buddhism. It's not just like, well, we incorporate Buddhist principles and we do our own thing. That's not how it works. So, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that these communities are very happy to interact with each other, because there's things we should be talking about with each other as Buddhists and Taoists, you know? Taoist practice includes a lot of stuff that is also used in Tantra. And the Taoists have trained in Buddhist Tantra. And quite often, even in modern times, modern Taoists very often have both Buddhist empowerments and Taoist Neigong systems, which are quite similar to Tantra. And they practice both. So these two traditions can hold hands, and I actually think should hold hands personally, even though I'm a pretty staunch Geluk Tibetan practitioner. It's very beneficial things you can carry over from the Taoists. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the agnostics are doing a bit of praying. So, Brandon, practices that have to do with chi. Okay, Cleric, good to see you. We'll see you soon. See you later. So, for those of you who are happening through, we're in the after hours now. And we're just talking about things related to meditation and different systems of meditation now. So, for those of you who just happen to be passing through or see this later, I'm at the stage now at the end of the month where if we have about 1,000 subscribers and maybe about 500 people or so that will end up watching this video, if half of you just chip in $5 on the link below through Venmo, I'll have all the money I need to continue teaching everybody for another month. So just chip in $5, $10, $20, whatever you can. And if half of us in the community do that, then I can carry on teaching and making content and doing live Q&As with everybody, which is what I want to do. And I think hopefully, hopefully this is also what you'd like to see as well. So do chip in if you are able, and if not, actually I give all these teachings for free. Money is required for me to exist, unfortunately, but I don't charge for any of this, so everyone is welcome, and I'm glad to have you here and answer your questions. But it will take some money to keep this running. So if you have it in your heart and your pocket, do chip in what you can. Okay, back now from the commercial break. Zen doesn't like to admit that it mixed with Taoism. When you look at the major Zen adepts in Japan in particular, they will say explicitly, on the one hand, they'll quote the Tao Te Ching to make certain points, I think, because it's popular. And it's a bit like modern Buddhist practitioners and teachers talking about physics or talking about Harry Potter or, or I don't know, existentialism and Freud, whatever the stuff is that people can understand and relate to and are reading and think is important. Teachers will take some of that information and work it into what they're doing because it makes things more relatable and understandable. But when you actually drill into the Shobogenzo, for example, or Rinzai's, what is it? Something, a mountain of thorns. I can't remember. A garden of thorns. The wonderful text that Rinzai wrote, who's the master. Oh no, what's his name? The reformer of Rinzai was, starts with an H. Nope, not coming. In any case, both of them say, both Dogen and him say, Taoism is not the thing to do. It doesn't lead to the same place as what we're doing. So they reject Taoism, but they borrow some of the texts to make certain points at certain times. If you look at the history of Buddhism in China, though, which then exported Zen-style practice to Japan, China. I'm sorry, to Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. In China, I hope you guys strap in. This may break some hearts and blow some minds. Has anyone heard the term a transmission outside the sutras? Yeah? I'll come back to that point, Pavlova. I will. I'll come back to that. So, transmission outside the sutras. That's interesting, right? Transmission outside the sutras. So, Zen is according to Zen practitioners a type of practice you can't find being taught in the sutras. And then Zen practitioners in the next breath, they'll say, well, actually, we do have the flower sutra, right? Where the Buddha is with Kashyapa and a number of other people, and they ask him to give a certain teaching, and he picks a flower off the ground, holds it in the air, and then Kashyapa smiles, and that's the end of the sutra. And the Chan practitioners, Zen practitioners, and so forth will point to that and say, that's the teaching on this type of practice. That's the only reference we have to it. Now, it's really interesting that sutra is only found, in my understanding of the origination of that sutra, it's not found in Sanskrit, and it emerges in something like the 7th or 9th century in China. That's kind of weird, isn't it? That a sutra showing that the Buddha taught Zen emerges like 400 years too late in Chinese, in China, when they're trying to show that this is a valid practice for Buddhists. That's kind of funny. I'm not actually making fun of the sutra, and I think it is still a profound teaching tool. But it is worth noting that the Taoists the Taoists did have this technique first, as far as we can tell. There are way better indications in texts pre-Buddhism from the Taoist tradition that have some hints, some indications that this is the type of practice they were doing. It's not 100% clear, but it's certainly way more clear than anything you find in the Buddhist sources from that time period. So all indications are actually that the Taoists, the best indications we have, and they're a little bit foggy, are that the Taoists were doing this practice. The Buddhists came to China, found this practice with the Taoists, started doing it also, realized how effective it was, and then incorporated it into their Buddhist practice because it really does work and it's really profound and it's helpful. That's one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about it is completely unrelated to the transmission of Chan to China, and how it originated or didn't originate there. In Tibet, you find Dzogchen, Mahamudra. You find these practices that are coming out of the Mahasiddha tradition, the great accomplished yogi tradition of the Middle Indian period, where the early and Middle Indian period, where the great yogis are teaching people how to basically, like we did today, rest and abide in the nature of consciousness. Right? So that didn't come from the Taoists in China. And we have sources from India in Sanskrit that are teaching those techniques. So it's kind of interesting that this technique may have originated from Buddhism in India at some point and have no record of it, or it may have emerged separately in two different places and two different people doing these kinds of practices, discovering more or less over the course of a couple hundred years that they work, and just sort of started doing them in different places. But anyways, it's a very well attested to technique, whether or not it's in the sutras. Okay. Pavlova, you said that thing that makes me think you're in Gen Z. The old man over here has identified language patterns that make me think you might be younger than I am. I'm so cooked, bro. So, the first sign that you're making progress in meditation is that it seems like your mind goes absolutely effing nuts. So if you're trying to meditate and it all of a sudden seems like your mind is worse than it's ever been, that means you're making progress. And the next step is not to pull back from the technique that is causing you to notice how absolutely insane your mind is. The next step is to lean into the practice that's finally giving you insight into the thing is to lean into the practice that's finally giving you insight into how crazy your mind is. If you simply pull back and let your mind run around to wherever it's going to run around to, simply sort of pulling back and calm, I'm just going to sit. Of course, you're going to be more calm, but being calm is not meditation. I'm sorry, Calm app, with due respect to your brand, being calm is not meditation. And this is why listening to ASMR and pink noise and soft music and all of this stuff, while it makes you calm, is not meditation and actually has nothing to do with meditation. I'm not saying it doesn't make you more calm. It probably does, but that's not what meditation is. Meditation is realizing what your mind is, how it functions, how it creates reality, how those creations become real, and how the seeming reality of the creations that your mind has come up with interfere with your ability to engage with reality properly. That's meditation. Making your mind slightly more calm is not meditation. Okay, on that cheery note, next question. Chan is passed from each and central. I think I covered that. Triggered. No, the frequency music, it does your brain, it helps. Look, I'm not saying there's not stuff that can make you slightly more calm. That there's all sorts of things that can make you slightly more calm, but that's not meditation. Okay, you ready? Watch. Close your eyes. Breathe softly into your nose. Now think about a time someone smiled at you and you were happy. I mean, of course, you're going to be more calm if someone's talking to you like this and, oh, yes, everything's gratitude and, oh, yeah, but that's not meditation. That's not what meditation is. So you have to make a distinguishment between these things. It's okay if you don't want to do meditation. That's fine. I mean, your life will be terrible, but it's okay, you know. Sorry, I've been hanging out with you guys so long today. I'm getting into like La La Land over here. Okay, historical Buddha. So, uh, how do I pronounce this? Kaput, the kaput maker. Are you saying that you're gonna put us out of existence, or is it kaput? Oh, a kaput is a thing, isn't it? It's some kind of object. So my perspective on the historical Buddha is complicated, long-winded, and boring, and academic, and multi-layered, and a long story. Um, on this stream, during the sort of regular hours for this stream, we just talk about meditation and things related to meditation and meditation practice. So that would fall a little bit outside the purview for this. So humbly, respectfully, and with great happiness in having you here, could you bring that question to one of the Q&A sessions and or put it in the comment section of one of the videos, any of the videos, and I'll answer it there. It'd be much more fun to answer it live, but I want to stay sort of more in the realm of meditation stuff and meditation training. Also, we have reached another benchmark here. So I'll just say for those of you who are new, because there's quite a few new people floating through this little bit of stream here. There's about 1,000 followers for the channel now, and probably about 250 to 500 people will see this video. So if that's you, find the link for the Venmo or the GoFundMe. Just drop $5 in there. If you drop $5 in there, then I'll have all the money that I need to continue upgrading the setup to make these streams and so forth, and bring you this information and train everybody in meditation, and make sure that the lights don't turn off. My phone is so old I can't even make it charge anymore. Look at this. It just died while I'm in the middle of the live stream, even though it's plugged in. So there's stuff, technology I need to upgrade so that I can manage all of this stuff better. And so the more everyone's able to help with this, the better I'm going to be able to serve the community. So chip in $5, $10, $20, or whatever you can, and then I can carry on doing this with everyone, which is the fulfillment of my life dream. This is why I can do this 18 hours a day with you, and I don't get tired, because I genuinely don't want to be doing anything else. And if you find this valuable and you want me to carry on doing this, somehow, if I'm doing this 18 hours a day, somehow I've got to keep the lights on, you know? I hate to keep bringing it up, but at least at this stage of the project, I just have to keep asking until we hit the numbers that we need, you know? Okay. Pavlova. My mind isn't on fire. I have such sleep deprivation. Oh, that I start dreaming, even while I'm focused on my breath. And then I just stare at the wall and I feel clearer and alert. So if you have sleep deprivation problems, lay down tonight and start doing the body scan we did today, but do it in more detail. So start with your foot, ankle, calf, knee, lower thigh, upper thigh, hip, other foot, boom, 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 to the hip, front of the pelvis, back of the pelvis, sexual organs. waist, diaphragm, chest, left shoulder, boom, 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 right shoulder, boom, boom, boom. Usually, you'll end up falling asleep before you finish the body scan. I thought so. I thought so because kaput means to go out of existence and to make something cease existence in German, doesn't it? I thought so. Okay. Uh, so if you have sleep deprivation, something that could really, really help, if it's not a neurological issue or a glandular issue, right? Like something wrong with your pituitary or something. Body scanning is one of the most effective things you can do to fall asleep. As I've said before, they use it in the U.S. military to train soldiers how to fall asleep in the middle of combat zones, which is much more stressful than most of our day-to-day lives usually. So yeah, okay. So hypnosis and channeling aliens. I don't know, man. I mean, hypnosis is a real thing. Hypnosis is a real thing. I don't think people would humiliate themselves the way they do on stage during hypnosis. And there's some really great hypnotists that have turned into public entertainers, for example, that get people to do things that physically they wouldn't be able to do if they weren't hypnotized, that are quite interesting, like cold plunges where they have no idea the water is cold until they break them out of the hypnotized state. So I think those are real things. I don't think in particular that they have any direct spiritual value. In terms of channeling stuff, I'm not sure. You know, I'm not inside that person's mind. Not sure. Seems a little strange to me. Um, Although for some reason my social media keeps sending me Bashar, what's his name? Bashir videos. You know this guy? He's totally nuts, but sometimes he says things and I go, yeah, that's true. And he's just a brilliant public speaker, you know. The way that he works with people is actually brilliant, which anyways, what he says he's doing is too weird, I think, for it to be true. But nonetheless, he's quite insightful. Okay, it was some things. Is there any way to contact you privately? Yes. So, like I said, sometimes whatever his name is, Bashar or whatever his real name is, again, he's very, very compelling public speaker. If he's just doing it as a show, basically to have followers and tell people stuff, he's actually quite insightful sometimes. But again, whether or not that's coming from a literal alien, how could we possibly say? And again, I don't know that. I don't know. Anyways, probably not worth talking about. Um, is there anyone to contact me? If you go to the description below, you'll see that I have a link for Facebook there. That takes you to my personal Facebook page. Through my personal Facebook page, if you add me as a friend, you can contact me through Messenger. And also, if you were thinking about or already have joined the school community where I'm building up a group of 100 to 200 serious practitioners that can all support each other in doing long-term retreat, etc. If you've already joined that, there's a messaging system through that as well. So yeah, a couple different ways to get in touch with me. And I'm very generous with my time. Again, I'm happy to talk to you anytime I'm awake and not doing something else. And I actually prefer to talk on the phone and to get to know people, especially if you're training with me and you're doing my stuff. It's really helpful for me to know who everybody is and what your background is, your interests are, what kind of practices you've already done or are doing, because that'll change how I teach. Because I want to make things as beneficial as possible for the people that are here. Question about meditation. The Chongster. Yeah. I like that. I wish I could see your photos a little bit bigger next year. Oh, I can. There we go. The Chongster. Epic. Oh no, something something terrible has happened. I can't make it small again. I can't see the chat anymore. Ah, damn. Hold on, give me a second. I got to pull the chat up from the live stream one more time. Oh, good times. Normally, I would use my phone to pull up the chat from the live stream because my computer is so ancient, it can't handle having the live stream and the chat. Again, thank you guys so much for chipping in. Those of you who already have, and within the last couple weeks, gotten enough money together that I was able to upgrade the setup. So soon this won't be a problem. But for the next few days, I'm still in gimpy mode with my laptop that is designed for basically word processing and trying to push it into service to do full on streaming with limited success. Okay, let's pop that out of there. All right, fantastic. Okay, we are back. So, glad you're here. Question about meditation. When focusing on my breath, I can't help but control it with a deeper breath. Should I be avoiding that? I find my natural breathing is really shallow. Okay, great question. Am I frozen or is everything still alive? Holy crap, what is that? You guys tell me, is the stream still going or have we froze to death? Okay. Let me see here. If you guys can hear me but you can't see me, oh no, 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 no. Error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh, I see. Okay, that's because okay, sorry you guys. Again, my computer is so old. My computer is so old, just to give you some perspective here, I opened YouTube and YouTube was streaming myself to me so that I had to be downloading and uploading some X number of whatever amount of data. And that data was taking up so much power in terms of my CPU and my RAM and everything that my computer started glitching out. And that's why the stream was so crappy for a second. Like, Jesus. Okay. So there are a couple schools of thought on the breath. If we're asking the Tibetans about this question, and we're asking them about how you would do it if you were going to go into retreat and try to attain samadhi, what they'll tell you is that you shouldn't control the breath because the act of controlling the breath is a second object of meditation. The first object of meditation is you focusing on the nostril. The second object of meditation is you focusing on, let's say, the diaphragm and controlling the movement of the diaphragm. So your attention is now divided between the diaphragm's movement and the patch of skin you've selected in your nostril. Should I channel Bashar for a second? You ready? I'll close my eyes and talk really fast. So, joking aside, I do close my eyes sometimes, so I'm not just hamming it up. It helps me think. So, if you wanted to do a type of breath meditation practice, and this is not the one that I teach, right? So, if you want to do a type of breath meditation where the movement of the diaphragm didn't become a distraction to the meditation, it would need to be a type of breath practice where the diaphragm's movement was included as part of the object of meditation. Where could you place your attention in the body that the diaphragm and its movements became part of the object of meditation? In the lower abdomen. Because in the lower abdomen, where the diaphragm muscles, does everybody know what your diaphragm looks like? It's a bunch of muscles that hang down. So my lungs are up here, right? And then here in the, oh, that doesn't help. You can see my big old fat belly here. So here in the this belt here, there are muscles that come down like this, and it pulls down, and like a bellows, as it pulls down, it creates negative pressure inside the lung, and that negative pressure sucks air into the lung. So when you breathe in, it pulls the diaphragm down, creating negative pressure, sucking air down into the lungs. So if the diaphragm moves down, it moves this down here. It has to move this stuff down here. So if you want a type of breath practice where slowing down the breath isn't adding a second object of meditation and dividing your attention between two things, the place to put your attention is in an area where the body is moving because of the diaphragm moving. And actually, meditation using the lower abdomen as the object of focus and the diaphragm area as part of that as the object of focus is a classical technique from Taoism and has some similarities to certain Tibetan practices as well. And it can work very well if you have a lot of time to devote to the practice. If you'd like a weird yogi fact, so there's a lot of yogi stuff that they do that they've just learned about the human body and the human mind over the years that we don't have a good logical reason for necessarily. And maybe we do now, but at the time they didn't. They just sort of figured stuff out and went, you know what? When I do this, it makes this happen. And so they did more of that to make more of that happen. When you're calm, your breath is slow and deep. Because your body and mind are connected, if you make your breathing slow and deep, your mind will become calm. And so the great yogis found, for example, if you put your attention in the lower abdomen and you deliberately slow your breath down to maybe 2 breaths a minute or 1 breath every 2 minutes, if you get really good at this, then simply the act of slowing your breath down significantly slows down the activity of your conventional mind. Now, there are a couple schools of thought on how you accomplish breath that is that slow. One of them says you just kind of force yourself to do it through the struggle of it until you get used to it, and your body will get used to it. And that's really painful and uncomfortable and not a lot of fun. The other school of thought is you use your heartbeats as like a ticking clock, right? So that's my heartbeat right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when that becomes comfortable, then I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, holding the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding the breath out with no breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's called 4 corners breathing. You would have 5 heartbeats, 5 breathing in, 5 holding, 5 breathing out, 5 with no breath in the body. And you carry on through these 4 corners using the heartbeat that you can feel in the lower abdomen as the sort of ticking clock to tell you how much time has passed. And eventually, if you do that practice and you extend it to 6 heartbeats and then 7 heartbeats per breath and so on and so forth, you'll get probably, if you're doing 30 minutes of practice a day, probably within 6 months or so, you'll get down to 2 breaths a minute. And at that stage, your concentration will be pretty good. But like I said, this is not a technique that I teach. And the other thing is other stuff can happen if you use that technique that you need instructions for, which is why I don't teach it, because there's more sophisticated things going on there. So the thing to probably do is, again, if you want to do that technique instead of following the breath here, to try to make your mind calm, you can use that as a replacement for something like body scanning. Place the mind in the lower abdomen, Breathe as slowly as you can, keeping the attention in the lower abdomen with the diaphragm included as part of the object of meditation. And you're just aware of the tactile sensations there in the lower abdomen while making the breath as slow as you can without feeling uncomfortable or passing out. And so that will make that will help you get the mind quite concentrated, and that type of meditation though is not great if you want your mind to be more bright and alert. Sorry, hold on just 1 second. So it's possible that you do a fair amount of that meditation and you make the mind you make the mind more stable, but then it becomes kind of sleepy and dull, and you'll find that it's difficult to recall information, difficult to connect ideas, blah blah blah, and uh, and that's why I don't. That's part of another reason I don't teach that technique. There are better techniques for making your mind extremely calm, like body scanning, that have all sorts of other benefits. So you might as well just do a full body scan and instead of trying to make your breath slow. By the way, um, I don't know if you guys, please do tell me if this is helpful or if it just sounds like I'm being arrogant or something, all right? But hopefully this is helpful. When I say to you guys, let's do a certain amount of breath practice at the beginning of a session, and then when I stop when I get to 1.5 rounds of breathing. For most people, they will be probably on 3 or 4 rounds of breathing by the time I get done. And it's not because I'm trying to breathe slowly. It's because if your mind generates a state of concentration, your breath slows down. And the more deep and profound the state of concentration, the slower your breath is. And so one of the signs that your meditation is going well is that your breath can slow down to the point where if you're focused on something else, you won't even know that you're breathing. One of my students who went into retreat a couple weeks ago sent me a message freaking out, and she went, I was doing this practice and all of a sudden I stopped breathing and blah blah blah, and I went, yeah, that's what happens. Like that's a normal sign that concentration is increasing. So you don't actually have to slow down the breath. If you do body scanning and these other techniques, the breath will slow down because the mind slows down. The breath slows down when the mind slows down. Okay, hopefully that helps the Chonger, if you're still here. What are your thoughts on moving for comfort during meditation? I talk about that a lot. What's the right balance for reacting versus not reacting? Okay, so here's my thoughts on this. I used to be much more hardcore about this, and then I put it to the test, and now I go the other way. If you're so this is Kaput Maker's question. When you are doing what I call Foundation 1, intensive breath meditation, what you're learning to do is rip your mind out of the normal conventional way that it interacts with the world with as much force as you can, because your distractions have great force. You need something with equal force to meet the force of your distractions. With great intensity, great force, you force your mind onto the breath. You do it for 5 minutes. I guarantee you at some point today, if you were using your phone or watching a movie or something, you sat still for 5 minutes. So we are already capable of sitting still for 5 minutes. So if you're doing that practice, sit still and put 1,000% of your attention into what you're doing for 5 motherfucking minutes. All right, just 5 minutes. Just do it. Now, if you were going to sit for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, the pain in your body will become so intense. Hi, Maitreya. Welcome, welcome. The pain in your body will become so intense, it will pull your mind out of the meditation. So you have 2 options. You can either sit there and struggle not actually meditating because you're actually focused on the pain, or you can move, or you can stop meditating for the day because it hurts too much. So I think the wiser option is to learn how to move in such a way that it only pulls you out of the session like 20% or 30%, and to also learn techniques that help you address the pain in the body without, while only leaving the session, let's say, with 30% or 20% of your mind. Because your mind, it's like internet bandwidth. You haven't probably been here to hear this this analogy. But right now, part of your attention is on the eyes, part is on the ears, parts on your nose, parts on your tongue, parts on your body, and part is on your mental content. It's and your bandwidth is, which is limited, is spread out across all 6 parts of you. And so if you were concentrating, let's say, on, like we did earlier tonight, if you were concentrating on tactile awareness, and 95% of your bandwidth is just on tactile sensation, let's say, okay, in that case, oh no, let's actually do a different example. Let's say that 95% of your attention, your attentional bandwidth, was on vision because you had opened the visual sense gate using the techniques I taught earlier tonight. But then the pain in your back started increasing, and more of your bandwidth is getting pulled to the pain. And therefore, whether you like it or not, part of the bandwidth of your awareness, which you're trying to pool and absorb here in the visual field, is getting pulled out and put somewhere else. Since that's happening, you have to do something. So rather than just sitting there struggling with it, what you would do is, for example, I've shown these exercises a few times, but I'll show you just a couple of them. These come over from a number of different places. Where can I put my computer that it will not explode? Okay, maybe over here. Okay, so for example, from the Confucian tradition that I learned through my Taoist teacher, one thing they used to do is this. So if the pain is low in your body, like your hips or your legs are falling asleep and maybe they're getting too painful, or the lower back is starting to hurt, then you do this. I'll actually show you from the side. Then I'll show you from this way. So you can see I'm basically just making a wide circle like this. And then you would go the other way. Now I'm doing this very large, but if I was in a state of concentration on vision, for example, so just give me a moment. So I've placed about 70% of my mind on vision. So now there's pain in my shoulders, for example. So this technique wouldn't work. But so what I would do is take maybe 10% of my awareness, put it in the body, keep 60%, 70% on my meditation object, and then I would make circles that are about this size. Whatever the minimum size is, so that, okay, now the little tingly bit in my hip that was tweaking out, okay, that's calmed down now. And now back to vision. So then I take the bandwidth back up into vision. So this very, very small method can allow you to extend a session that would have been ruined by pain, from 20 minutes more comfortably into 40 minutes or an hour. Another technique is if the pain is in your middle back, so in here, This comes from the Okinawan martial tradition of Zen. Very, very simple. You just do this. That's it. And you'll find that because of rocking back and forth, the little muscles and things in the mid back, you can loosen those up. Now, if the pain is up here in the upper back and between the shoulder blades and such, usually that's because of your shoulders, not your upper back. Usually. And if there's pain in the neck, which is quite common when you're meditating, because when you concentrate, quite often you go like this to exaggerate, right? Because you're trying to get your mind to do what you want to do, and your shoulders go like this a little bit. So a technique from the Taoist, one of the Taoist schools, is this. I showed this on another stream, but you think that like your shoulders, imagine that they're bicycle pedals, and you move them like this in both directions. So to show from the side, at a bit of an extreme, we're going to stretch them away from each other like this. And I haven't shown this on previous streams, but while I'm stretching that, I have my hands here or here in whatever posture I'm doing the meditation in. So I keep them here, right, without moving my hands, and then I move the shoulders to the extreme opposite directions they can go in. So this one's going up and forward, and this one's going down and backwards, right? So I'm pulling them apart from each other and moving them like the pedals on a bicycle. And then you go the other way. And that just stretches out all the little muscles and connective tissue and stuff. And very quickly, you'll feel that the pain in the upper back and between the shoulder blades and the bit of your neck here at the top that gets sore, a lot of that will go away. If the problem is just here in the very top of the neck, actually those muscles are these muscles mostly. If you're not going like this, right? If you're not leaning forward and tensing those muscles that have to hold the head like this, it's actually your shoulders that are the problem. And what you're doing without noticing it is this. So right now, while you're sitting here, if you tense the shoulders sort of back and up, you'll feel that it grabs those muscles on the back of the neck that get sore. So one technique that I learned, I don't know that it's official from anywhere, but one technique that my preceptor for Patimoksha vows taught me, Venerable Thubten Chodron, is you pull your shoulders up like this to your ears, basically, and not forward, but back and up, so that it really clenches the back of the neck. And you hold it there, really clench it tightly, and then just release it and release it down. And then you'll feel that the muscles here in the neck that tighten when you concentrate on something, that you can clench them tightly and make them release. You can force them to release. So between the bicycle exercise and the clench and release exercise, and then the rocking forward and back and the rocking in circles, you can address most of the spine from top to bottom. And if you're going to do those while you're meditating, the shoulder one would look like this. Right? It's very subtle. I just lift them a little bit. I tighten those muscles a little bit, keeping most of my attention on the object, and then I release. You see the release? Can everybody see that? Or has my stream crashed again and are we in oblivion? If it has, then I'm just laughing at myself. Let me see. No, it looks like we're still live. Okay. So This is my recommendation. Oh, there's one more. So the other thing that can happen is, just to show you from here, so if you look at my torso, and especially look right here, sort of where my ribs are, right? So one thing that can happen when you're, oh, hello, hello, hello. Everyone's very good, good, good. One thing that can happen while you're sitting is, for example, I have my hands here in my lap, for example, or here on my knees, and you end up going like this, where you sort of crunch one side and you twist. But because it happens so slowly while you were, ah, thank you so much, Ty. That was really, really meaningful. Thank you, thank you. That'll make a big difference. That'll make a big, big difference. Thank you. So when you're seated, right, you'll find that sometimes the spine will twist like this and sort of compress a bit, but it happens very often slowly because maybe you sleep like this, it's twisted, or when you're relaxing, you're sitting on the couch, you sleep like this, twisted, and so your spine feels like that it's straight when it's twisted and slightly compressed because you're used to that. But when you sit still and you're trying to meditate, your spine goes, no, this is wrong. And it starts to get sore through here or something. So there's a technique for this. I haven't found a good analogy for this, unfortunately, and I really need an analogy for this. But this last technique, you start from the bottom of the spine, almost if like the tailbone, right? And you go like this, and you start twisting the spine one vertebra at a time, up, 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 till you get to the neck, and then you twist each vertebra of the neck. And you do this very slowly, very deliberately, while breathing. And so it'd probably be more helpful to see this part of me. It looks like this. And then once you get to the end of it, when you get to the end of one twist, instead of deliberately untwisting, you start from the bottom and you relax this vertebra, relax this one, relax this one. And so you uncoil from the bottom up. So the bottom pulls the top around. And once you do it, you'll feel what I mean. But so it looks like this. So just like we did with the shoulders, okay, and you were tense here, we went like this, clenched it, and then said, relax, right? And you dropped the tension out of it. So first you learned how to grab it, clench it, make it tight. And by deliberately making it tight, you're sort of taking control of the unintentional tightness and then releasing it. So in terms of this twisting one, you have all these little muscles that help you twist your spine. And sometimes when you're sitting in meditation, one of them will sort of grab and pull and twist and pull you like this. And you don't notice because you're trying to do something else with your mind. So if you keep the spine upright, right? You keep the spine upright. I'm not going like this or something. And you twist in place. And then just like releasing the shoulders down, from the bottom up, you release the bottom, boom, 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 coming up like this. And you just let it release back to the middle. You can release all those little muscles that have you twisted, that get sore. Now, once again, if you're already, let's say you've been practicing for 40 minutes or something, and you're meditating on something difficult like consciousness itself, and even small movements are going to pull you significantly out of that meditation, then this is what that exercise would look like. That's it. So you learn how to just tense those little muscles, boom, 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 coming up the spine, and then release all of them one way, tense them coming up the other way, release them down. And it's just this tiny little movement where you can keep 90% of your mind in the exercise that you're already doing without coming out. And so these little hacks can help you significantly. If you want to just increase your range of ability to sit, you can do the big version before you sit or between sessions or whatever. You can do the big version. Then when you're in a session, you can do these little tiny versions, right? Even smaller than that. When you know where the problem is, you can go, well, relax. And that's all you need to do. And then you go back to the session. And as long as that doesn't become weird and neurotic and constant and you're just wiggling everything around all the time, then it's better than just sitting there in pain, because the pain is also pulling your mind out of the session. Whew. Okay. I feel like there are other... Oh, yeah, I missed some questions, didn't I? What's your personal view on Shingon Tendai lineages? I think according to the classification of Vajrayana used by Gelug Sakya sects, they only have the yoga level of Tantra is not the highest yoga level. I'm actually not super familiar with how it is Shingon and Tendai would be classified in the Tibetan systems. Yeah. As far as I know, they do have something like the completion stage practices that are in the Tibetan systems, but I'm not 100% sure. From what I've heard from my Dharma brother here in Scotland, who is a Tendai practitioner in a proper lineage from Japan, they do have those practices. And yeah, whether or not it goes to the level of completion stage and the subtle minds and so forth, I don't know. I just don't know enough about it. But I suspect that it does. I suspect that it does, but I'm not sure. I have great respect for it. In fact, I've said before, at some point I'd really love to go to Japan and train in those practices. They actually have a program in Japan at Mount Hiei where you can do a month-long intensive where you do like 16 hours a day of Tendai practice, and you become certified through completing an extremely difficult retreat to be able to teach some of the actual practices and so forth. I think that would be fantastic to do at some point. It's an aspiration of mine. Okay. Did I scare away Maitreya? The next Buddha, he visited the stream and he heard me say a curse word, I think, and then departed. Okay, shade